Hi and welcome to Granny Tanny's Book Nook Read with Me. Today we're looking at the Usborne's Forgotten Fairy Tales of Brave and Brilliant Girls. And we'll be reading the introduction. So this here is just giving you a list of contents. This book makes for an economical option because there are more than one book included. But let's have a look at the introduction to see if it's the right book for you. For thousands of years, people have been telling fairy tales to each other on sunny days to while away the time, or on long, dark evenings around the fire. These tales were remembered and passed on from friend to friend, from parents to children, across borders and over time. All the stories shared one common thread. Like living things, they were always changing as they danced from one storyteller to the next. Then, a few hundred years ago, the old wild stories began to hunt and then a few hundred years ago, the old wild stories began to be hunted and tamed. Collectors came. They gathered up the stories they had heard and set about writing them down, trapping them between the pages of their books. Now, in some ways, this was a very fine thing. The great story hunters, such as the Brothers Grimms in Germany or Andrew and Nora Lang in Scotland, gave everyone a gigantic gift by keeping the old tales alive. Even today, they continue to light up our lives. The most famous have become the most often told stories in the world, the stories that everyone listens to at bedtime or watches on a screen. But something was lost when the stories were written down. The collectors cooked up their own versions. It's true that a fairy tale should be told the way you want, but it does mean that many of our most stories had the idea and ideals of the time baked into them, and they are still being told that way today. Many of these ideas we now consider very old-fashioned. Women were often shown weaker than men. There were more princesses waiting to be rescued than there were brave heroines who saved the day. This is true for some of our most famous fairy tales: Cinderella, Snow White, and Sleeping Beauty. As these tales became famous, they overshadowed all the others. There could be room for only one princess in a tower. Rapunzel loomed over the nettled princess like a skyscraper over a gingerbread cottage. The brave and brilliant girls were hidden from view. Stories die when they are not told, and we want to bring some of the forgotten fairy tales back to life. Why is it so important that these tales are not forgotten? Because fairy tales fire our imagination, and they can shape our understanding and our expectations for our lives. A fairy tale that stays with you can make you see a world in a whole new way. The 8 forgotten fairy tales in this book are bursting with brave, daring women who rescue princes, go on adventures, fight with giants, and climb impossible mountains. Some of the tales are less forgotten than others, but even if you think you know them, you may have find they've changed shape. Like all storytellers, we have told them in a way we thought best, and if you really love a fairy tale, you can retell it too. If you want, you can change the ending and the meaning in a way that you think is best. Who knows? Your story may be told and told again. So enjoy these adventures and then tell them to your friends. Thanks for joining Granny Tanny in the Book Nook.